Hello everyone, welcome back to the Learning Leap YouTube channel. I am Hilal Bhatt. I am a paramedical student. Today I am here with a series of lectures regarding how we can know the use of any medicine by just looking at the suffix or end part of the medicine. So what we have to do is I'm giving you number of medicines. You can look at the end part of that medicine, and by looking at that end part you will know what is the use of that medicine. So let's start. We have a suffix. First suffix we have, that's phenaic. Any drug that is ending by the word phenaic, what is the use of that phenaic, what is the use of that medicine, and where the medicine is used, and also which class that medicine is belongs to. Like if any medicine is ending with the word phenaic, where this medicine is used and in which class that medicine or that drug belongs to. So the first word is phenaic. We have a number of drugs that ends with the phenaic. For example, we have commonly used drug diclofenac. This drug is used in everyday's life. We have aceclofenac. So these drugs, they both contain the word phenaic at the end. So the first suffix was phenaic, and we have two drugs here, diclofenac and aceclofenac. So what we will do, we will see that these drugs, where these drugs are used, and in which condition these drugs are given, and also which class these drugs belong to. These drugs belong to a class of drugs that is called as NSAIDs. These drugs belong to the class of drugs called NSAIDs. NSAIDs are NSAIDs means non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So now we have seen these drugs, these drugs that contain phenaic as a suffix. These drugs belong to this class of groups, NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Now, what we will see the use of these drugs. These drugs are used. These drugs which contain phenaic, these drugs are used in reducing the pain. They're painkillers. They are using to reduce the pain. These drugs are also used to reduce the fever. These drugs are also used to reduce the fever or to decrease the body temperature. And one more thing, these drugs are also used to reduce the body inflammation of any part of the body. So the first suffix we were discussing was phenaic. Phenaic, we have diclofenac, we have aceclofenac. These drugs belong to the group of medicines called NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. These drugs are given when you are suffering from pain, when you are suffering from fever or inflammation. These drugs are used in pain, in fever, and inflammation. So we will move towards another suffix. We have another suffix that is nazole. That is nazole. That is nazole. NaZole. You might have heard the drugs that contains nazole as the suffix part. For example, we have fluconazole. We have fluconazole. Another one we have ketoconazole. We have econazole. We have meconazole. We also have itraconazole. We have oxyconazole. These drugs contain nazole as the suffix. any drug that contains nazole like fluconazole, ketoconazole, econazole, meconazole, itraconazole, or oxyconazole. These drugs belong to the class of drugs called as antifungal. These drugs which contains nazole as the end part, they belong to the class of drugs called as antifungals, where these drugs are used. As the name suggests, antifungal, these drugs are used against the as the fungal infections. They prevent us from the fungus, they fight against the fungus. So these drugs that contain nazole as the end part, these are antifungal drugs. We'll see the another suffix. These, I'm giving you the basics of the pharmacology. So another classification, that is citiron. These, any drug that contains citiron as the suffix. You might have heard or seen ondansetron. Ondansetron is commonly used drug. It is easy and commonly used drug. Ondansetron, we use that in vomiting. First, we have ondansetron, drug that contains citiron as the end. Citiron at the end. We have granny citiron. We have romisterone, we have planosterone. These drugs contain citiron as the suffix. Now we will see where these drugs are used, where these drugs are given, and which class these drugs or these medicines belong to. So citiron. Whenever you see any medicine or any drug that contains citiron as the end part, the first thing that will come to your mind is these drugs are antiemetics. These drugs are antiemetics. What is antiemetics? These drugs are given in case of vomiting and nausea. Whenever any person, any patient will suffer from vomiting or nausea, we can give them ondansetron, granisetron, romisterone, planosterone. These drugs, any drug, any medicine that contains citiron as the suffix, the first thing that will come to your mind is these are antiemetics, and they are given in the case of vomiting and nausea. Now, what is nausea? You mean by the word nausea, we simply mean when we have urge to vomit, but we can't expel the contents from our stomach, and vomiting is actually the expulsion of the contents from our gastric system. Now, the fourth classification, the fourth suffix we have is iramine. Drugs that contain iramine as suffix, we have pheniramine, iramine, we have chlorpheniramine. These drugs contain iramine as the end part, or we can say suffix. Now, where these drugs are given and which class these drugs belong to. So, whenever you see any drug, any medicine that contains iramine as the end part, the thing is, wherever you will see these drugs or any medicine which contains iramine, these drugs are antihistaminic drugs. Antihistaminic drugs, they belong to class of antihistaminic class. So what actually is antihistaminic? In common words, we can say these are anti-allergic drugs. Anti-allergic drugs. If you are suffering from allergy, if anyone is suffering from allergy, any body allergy, the first thing the doctor will prescribe that person is a drug that will contain iramine. These drugs are given in allergic conditions or allergic situations, means these are antihistamine drugs. So the last one we will discuss today is The suffix, the drugs that contain pril is, and so pril, any drug or any medicine that contains pril as suffix, we have drugs like we have captopril, we have captopril, we have ramipril, we have lansoprazole. So these drugs contain pril, captopril, we have ramipril, we have lansoprazole, we also have benzapril, enalapril. There are a number of drugs that contain pril. So these drugs are used in hypertension. Hypertension. These drugs are actually these pill containing drugs that are antihypertensive drugs. They are also used in heart conditions. They are also used in kidney problems. Any drug, any medicine that contains pill. These are any captopril, any substance, any medicine or any drug that contains pill as the suffix. These are used in hypertension, these are used in heart conditions, these are used in kidney conditions, kidney problems, heart problems. Now the last thing we are discussing is these drugs containing this pill, where they belong to, which class they belong to. Now we will see that we need to see these things. Any medicine that contains pill, they are ACE inhibitors. They belong to the group called ACE. Sorry, they belong to the group called ACE inhibitors. Now, what is ACE inhibitor? The need we are discussing this. This is very important. What is ACE? ACE stands for angiotensin converting enzyme. ACE actually is a converting enzyme. If you remember this renin-angiotensin aldosterone system, there is a converting enzyme. It is a central component of engine this renin-angiotensin system. This ACE. This is very important in RAS system. So the function of this enzyme is it in RAS aldosterone system. This converting enzyme it basically converts angiotensin first and angiotensin second. If a person is taking the drugs like captopril, anything that contains pril, captopril, ramipril, that will act on this enzyme, that will inhibit the function of ACE enzyme, that will not allow the angiotensin converting enzyme to that will not allow angiotensin converting enzyme to form angiotensin second. It will inhibit the function. It will inhibit the function of angiotensin converting enzyme. So if a person is taking the drugs that contains pill like captopril or anything linzopril, that will prevent this angiotensin converting enzyme from this converting angiotensin first and angiotensin second. Because if there is angiotensin second in a bulk amount or in a great quantity in our body, we will have hypertension. So if we can prevent this from becoming angiotensin 1 and angiotensin second, we need to inhibit this. First, we have to inhibit this converting enzyme so that it will not form angiotensin second. These drugs are very important drugs. That's why they have been put into ACE inhibitors. Any substance, any drug that contains pril as the suffix, they belong to this ACE inhibitor drugs of this class. So today we learned where the suffix phenaic, suffix citron, suffix this eramine, suffix pril, and the suffix nazole. These drugs, where these drugs are used and where these drugs, which class they belong to. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will come up with these exciting videos in coming days. I hope you will suggest me where I have to improve, where I have to improve my skills. The comment section is open for you guys. You people will make us strong. Please subscribe the channel. Thank you very much.